I'm Kimberly, 34. The digital image on my computer screen is frozen, capturing a moment that shattered my world. There's my fiancé, Ryan, sitting among my family at my half-sister Lily's wedding, a wedding I was watching from my apartment because they claimed the venue had limited capacity. Ryan was supposed to be in Seattle for a business conference. The sight of him in a suit he said was at the dry cleaners made my champagne-filled glass slip from my hand, shattering on the floor. To understand how I ended up here, alone and betrayed, you need to know my family's complicated history. My parents divorced when I was 15. My father, Henry, was a cold and calculating man, always focused on his real estate empire. He left my mother, Grace, a kind-hearted schoolteacher, for Vivian, a woman 12 years younger than him who worked as a secretary. I later found out their affair had been going on for nearly 2 years before the divorce. When I was 17, Lily was born. From that moment on, I felt myself being pushed out of my father's life. His office, once filled with pictures of me, was now adorned with portraits of him, Vivian, and baby Lily. Meanwhile, my mother struggled to make ends meet after the divorce. We lived in a small, run-down apartment, and she took on extra tutoring jobs to pay the bills. My father's business thrived. He built luxury resorts across the country, while I watched my mother's health deteriorate under the stress of work. When I was 22, my mother passed away from a heart attack. At her funeral, my father gave a brief, emotionless speech, and Vivian stood beside him, looking bored. Lily, then 5, was more interested in playing with her toys than saying goodbye to her half-sister's mother. After my mother's death, I threw myself into my career as a web designer. I built a small but successful freelance business, and I was proud of my independence. I met Ryan 3 years ago at a networking event. He was charming, intelligent, and seemed genuinely interested in me. We moved in together after 6 months, and he proposed last year with a simple but beautiful ring. Ryan knew about my family issues. He always comforted me on the anniversaries of my mother's death and encouraged me to try to get closer to my father. Looking back, his insistence should have been a red flag. Last year, after we got engaged, Ryan met my father and Vivian at a dinner. They hit it off immediately, and my father started asking Ryan detailed questions about his tech startup. They exchanged business cards, and I thought it was a good sign that my family was finally accepting my relationship. However, over the past year, I noticed strange things. Ryan had more business trips than usual, and my father would mention Ryan in phone calls but quickly change the subject when I asked for details. Vivian started sending me birthday cards, something she had never done before. I was so happy to see a positive change in our family relationships that I ignored my instincts. Then, in May, I received a digital invitation to Lily's wedding. She was only 18, still a child in my eyes. The invitation was elaborate, with 3D animations and a custom soundtrack. It announced her marriage to Ethan, the son of one of my father's business partners, at my father's beachfront mansion in Malibu in 3 months. I called my father right away. He sounded nervous when he answered.
"Lily is so young, Dad."
"Isn't this too soon?" I asked, genuinely concerned. "She's mature for her age, and Ethan's family is very influential," he replied defensively. When I asked about travel arrangements, he said, "We have to limit the in-person guests due to capacity issues." I knew it was a lie. His mansion could easily accommodate hundreds of people. But they had arranged a live stream for those who couldn't attend. That night, I told Ryan about the wedding and my exclusion. He seemed overly interested in the details and then told me he had a business conference in Seattle on the same weekend. I was heartbroken but tried to be understanding. In the weeks leading up to the wedding, I received a flood of emails about the live stream, including technical instructions and suggestions for creating a wedding viewing experience at home. Ryan was busy preparing for his trip. He bought a new suit and said his old one was too shabby for the conference. A week before the wedding, I saw social media posts from relatives arriving at my father's mansion for pre-wedding events. I also found a hotel reservation confirmation on Ryan's laptop for a hotel near the mansion. I convinced myself it was a mistake, but deep down, I knew something was wrong. The day before the wedding, I received texts from my father and Vivian reminding me to log in early. Lily sent a single text saying, "Hope the stream works, lol." I spent the night alone, drinking wine and looking at old family photos. I saw a picture of Ryan in the background of one of the pre-wedding photos, but when I tried to look closer, the post was deleted. On the morning of Lily's wedding, I decided to make the best of the situation. I put on a black cocktail dress, did my makeup, and ordered a bouquet of flowers. I sat down at my laptop, connected it to the TV, and opened a bottle of champagne. The live stream started an hour before the ceremony. The mansion looked magnificent from the drone shots, with a beautiful garden and a large pool. Guests arrived, dressed in their finest clothes. I recognized many relatives I hadn't seen in years. Then, during the procession, I saw Ryan. He was sitting in the front row, looking completely at ease, chatting with my uncle. I choked on my champagne and tried to pause the stream, but I dropped the remote. By the time I picked it up, the camera had moved on. As Lily and Ethan exchanged vase, the camera panned across the guests again, and there was Ryan, smiling and clapping. And then I saw it. Vivian was wearing my grandmother's diamond necklace, a family heirloom that my mother had promised me would be mine. The live stream froze at that moment, as if the universe was giving me time to absorb the betrayal. I took screenshots of the frozen image, my hands shaking. I called Ryan, but it went straight to voicemail. I texted him, "I can see you at the wedding. What's going on?" No reply. I called my father, and he didn't answer either. After the initial shock and tears, anger took over. I decided to investigate. I started with social media, finding more photos of Ryan at the pre-wedding events. I also found emails between Ryan and my father discussing a business deal and how to keep me in the dark. I discovered that Ryan's startup was mainly funded by my father, and it was all part of a plan to keep an eye on me. My father was worried that I would contest my grandmother's will, which he had changed when she was in a vulnerable state. I reached out to my mother's brother, Uncle Jake, who had been estranged from the family. He told me that my father had spread rumors about him to keep him away from me. He also gave me some documents that showed my father's financial improprieties, including tax evasion. Armed with this evidence, I hired a lawyer. A few days after the wedding, Ryan called me. I put him on speaker and confronted him. He admitted that he was initially hired by my father to date me, but he said he fell in love with me for real. But it was too late. My father called while Ryan was with me. I put him on speaker too. The three-way conversation was explosive. My father tried to defend himself, but I had the evidence to prove his lies. I demanded that he return my grandmother's necklace, the money he owed me from the estate, and make a public apology. In the end, my father's attorney contacted my lawyer with a counter offer. They would return the necklace, pay me a large sum of money from the estate, and hold a private family meeting where my father would admit his wrongdoing. I accepted the offer, but I also made sure that Ryan returned all the money he received from my father and dissolved his business relationship with him. The family meeting took place a month later. Relatives from both sides of the family attended. My father stood up and apologized for his actions. Lily came to me afterward and said she didn't know about any of it. She was going to college soon, and my father had already paid for her tuition. In the months that followed, my father's business suffered as rumors of his financial improprieties spread. His marriage to Vivian ended in a messy divorce. Ryan tried to contact me several times, but I didn't respond. I used a portion of the money from the estate to start a foundation to support single-parent families. I also met a new man, a journalist who was investigating my father's business. Our relationship is built on honesty and mutual respect. The frozen image of the wedding still sits on my computer desktop. It's a reminder of the pain and betrayal, but also of the strength and justice I found in the end. Family betrayal is the deepest kind of hurt, but sometimes it can lead to a new and better life.